Hello, A-Push people. I hope you guys are having a rockin' first week back in the swing of things after a Christmas holiday, whatever you did for the holiday. So today we are actually on day 2 of our chapter reading on the Civil War. And today we are going to talk, yesterday we talked about the beginning of the war and those implications. Today we are going to be talking about the first 2 years of the war, 1861 and 1862. People at first expected the war to last no more than a few weeks. Lincoln called up the first volunteers for an enlistment period of only 90 days. On to Richmond was the optimistic cry, but as Americans soon learned, it would take years for this war to be finally over. So let's talk about the first battle of Bull Run. In the first major battle of the war in July of 1861, 30,000 Federal troops marched from Washington, D.C. to attack Confederate forces positioned near Bull Run Creek at Manassas Junction, Virginia. Just as the Union forces seemed close to victory, Confederate reinforcement under General Thomas Stonewall Jackson counterattacked and sent the inexperienced Union troops in disorderly and panicky fight back to Washington. The battle ended the illusion of a short war and also promoted the myth that the rebels were invincible in battle. So the South obliterated the Federal troops in the North in the first battle of the Civil War. Right? Yeah. Hold on, guys. I'm sorry. So the Union strategy was devised by a man named General-in-Chief Winfield Scott. He was a veteran of the War of 1812, and it had 3 parts. It was to use the U.S. Navy to blockade southern routes, also known as the Anaconda Plan, cutting off essential supplies from reaching the Confederacy, so blocking off all these water ports and water avenues that the Confederacy can get into. Take control of the Mississippi River. And when you take control of the Mississippi River, the thought was it would divide the Confederacy in 2 and raise and train an army of 500,000 strong to conquer Richmond, the capital. The first 2 parts of this strategy proved easier to achieve than the third, but ultimately all 3 were important in achieving Northern victory. After the Union's defeat at Bull Run, Federal armies experienced a succession of crashing defeats as they attempted various campaigns in Virginia. Each was less successful than the one before. General George B. McClellan, the new commander of the Union Army in the East, insisted that his troops be given a long period of training before going into battle. So he wanted to more so accomplish the training an army strategy. Finally, after many delays that sorely tested Lincoln's patience, McClellan's army invaded Virginia in March 1862. The Union Army was stopped as a result of a brilliant tactical moves by Confederacy General Robert E. Lee, who emerged as the commander of the South's eastern forces. After 5 months, McClellan was forced to retreat and was ordered back to the Potomac, where he was replaced by General John Pope. So all this training led to an invasion that took a long time and was unsuccessful. So he basically got fired. So Lee took advantage of the change in Union generals to strike quickly at Pope's army in northern Virginia. He drew Pope into a trap, then struck the enemy's flank and sent the Union army backward to Bull Run. Pope withdrew to the defenses of Washington. So the first years of the Civil War was not that great for the North. Now this is what's known as the turning point of the war. Following up his victory at Bull Run, Lee led his army across the Potomac into enemy territory in Maryland. In doing so, he hoped that a major Confederate victory in the Union state would convince Britain to give official recognition and support to the Confederacy. By this time, Lincoln had restored McClellan to command of the Union Army. McClellan had the advantage of knowing Lee's battle plan because a copy of it had been dropped accidentally by a Confederate officer. The Union Army intercepted the invading Confederates at Antietam Creek in Maryland, in the Maryland town of Sharpsburg. Here, the bloodiest single day of combat in the entire war took place, a day which more than 22,000 soldiers were killed or wounded. Unable to break through Union lines, Lee's army retreated to Virginia. Disappointed with McClellan for failing to pursue Lee's weakened and retreating army, Lincoln removed him for a final time as a Union commander. The president complained that his general had a bad case of disclose. So basically he was a horrible employee and got fired multiple multiple times. While a draw on the battlefield, Antietam proved to be a decisive battle. This is why it was the proving point. Because the Confederacy failed to get what they so urgently needed, open recognition and aid from a foreign power like Britain. On the other hand, Lincoln found enough encouragement in the results of Antietam to claim a Union victory. As explained later in this chapter, Lincoln used the partial triumph of Union arms to announce plans for a direct assault on the institution of slavery as a whole. Replacing McClellan with the more aggressive General Burnside, Lincoln discovered that a strategy of reckless attack could have even worse consequences than McClellan's strategy of caution and inaction. In December 1862, a large Union army under Burnside attacked Lee's army at Fredericksville, Virginia, and suffered immense losses, 12,000 dead or wounded compared to 5,000 Confederate casualties. Both Union and Confederacy generals were slow to learn that improved weaponry, especially the deadly fire from enemy artillery, took the romance out of heroic charges against positions. Okay, so a messy war for the Union, indeed. Do I want to continue? Yes. The Union's hope for winning the war depended upon its ability to maximize its economic and naval advantages by an effective blockade of the Confederacy ports, the Anaconda Plan. The Union's blockade strategy under McClellan was placed in jeopardy by the Confederate ironclad ship, the Merrimac, a former Union ship rebuilt and renamed the Virginia, that attacked and sunk several Union wooden ships on March 8, 1862, near Hampton Roads, Virginia. The ironclad ship seemed unstoppable because it was destroying boat after boat of the North's naval strategy. Boat after boat, it was sinking. However, on March 9th, the Union's own ironclad, the Monitor, engaged the Merrimac in a 5-hour duel. Although the battle ended in a draw, the Monitor prevented the Confederates' formidable new weapon from challenging the U.S. naval blockade. So more broadly, this issue was a turning point of naval warfare, with vulnerable wooden ships being replaced by metal and ironclad ships. The Battle of the Ironclads occurred at about the same time as a far bloodier encounter in West Tennessee, a Confederate state. The Union's campaign for control of the Mississippi River was partly under the command of a West Point graduate, Grant, who had joined up for the war after an unsuccessful civilian career. Striking south from Illinois in early 1862, Grant used a combination of gunboats and army maneuvers to capture Fort Henry and Fort Donaldson on the Cumberland River. These stunning victories, in which 14,000 Confederates were taken prisoner, opened up the state of Mississippi for Union attack. So the Union is rebounding at this point from a messy start of the war. A few weeks later, a Confederate army under Albert Johnson surprised Grant at Shiloh, Tennessee, but the Union Army held its ground and finally forced the Confederates to retreat after terrible losses on both sides, more than 23,000 dead and wounded. Grant's ride down the Mississippi was complemented on April 1862 by the capture of New Orleans by the Union Navy under David Farragut. So earlier in this video, we said the Navy was an important strategy for the North to use, and they used it, captured New Orleans, sailing pursuit along the Mississippi, and a successful blockade after a messy start of the war for the Union. So I hope you guys found this video informative, educational, and to the point. See you guys later.